this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Kids, pets, life, your sofa sees it all. But with a washable sofa, stains don't stand a chance. All of our sofa collections come with fully machine washable covers and cushions, making cleanup effortless. Liquid and stain-resistant fabrics provide extra protection against everyday messes. Plus, with modular designs, you can rearrange your sofa however you like. Perfect for growing families and changing spaces. Starting at just $699, it's time to upgrade to a stress-free, mess-proof sofa. Visit washablesofas.com today and save. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
These days, it seems like AI agents are just about everywhere you turn, every field and every function. But without identity, you can't trust they'll serve your business instead of jeopardizing it. Fortunately, Okta helps you get identity right by securing your AI agents' identities, giving you a single layer of control, a single standard of trust. So whether an AI agent supports a single user or your entire enterprise, with Okta, you'll turn risk into opportunity. Secure every agent. Secure any agent. Okta secures AI.
We've been endorsing Pure Talk since our show launch. We wanted to work with a wireless company that shares our values. Pure Talk is veteran-led, and they've donated over $500,000 to America's Warrior Partnership to help prevent veteran suicide.
They're also creating American jobs with a U.S.-only workforce, and we love the service. Pure Talk gives you the same towers and same 5G coverage as one of the big guys, just at a fraction of the price.
Go to puretalk.com/buck and switch to Pure Talk today.
Welcome back in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show. Let's dive into this a little bit. We got a couple of different takes that I can't not play this right now. Ketanji Brown Jackson, Buck, is Joe Biden's final curse on the United States. We talked about yesterday when Joe Biden said, I will only put a black woman on the Supreme Court. I believe, look this up and make sure that I'm right. I think 2% or 3% of lawyers are black women in the entire country. So in one fell swoop, Joe Biden said, I'm not going to consider 97 or 98% of all lawyers in America for the Supreme Court. And as a result, we now have Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Buck, it feels like every single oral argument, there is another viral, I can't believe this is real, Ketanji Brown Jackson clip. And I tweeted this yesterday, and I said we only have about 30 more years of this. But it is the truth that the most consequential decision from a personnel perspective that almost any president will make is who he puts on the Supreme Court. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, I believe, is 56 years old. So if we think that she's going to serve for another 25 or 30 years, we're going to have to prepare ourselves for more and more of this. And this was the question that she asked, having to do with yesterday's hearing on Birthright Citizenship. I want you guys to listen. She compares it to stealing a wallet in Japan.
I was thinking about this, and I think there are various sources that say this, that you obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign. And I was thinking, I'm I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law? I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on, even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance.
Look, lawyers often think based on analogy, Buck, because it is an important part of the law to subtly alter fact patterns and consider how the implications of your decisions might apply in situations that have not yet arisen. That's an important part of the legal process. This is so moronic. Everyone is subject to the law of the jurisdiction that they are physically present in. This is not a complicated, I'm sorry. This is just not a complicated issue. So the fact that she is somehow analogizing birthright citizenship with committing a crime in a foreign country and not recognizing that this is just absolutely preposterous is just a sign that she doesn't grasp intellectually the heft of the decisions or even is able to grapple with them, Buck, in a significant, intelligent way as lawyers should be able to do.
And in that sense, she's actually the perfect Democrat Supreme Court justice because it doesn't matter. She doesn't even have the ability. Kagan can sit there, think it through, figure it out. Sotomayor a little bit more, I think, than Ketanji Brown Jackson. Not really. I mean, Sotomayor is pretty dumb. Just, for a lawyer. Not dumb for a person, but for a lawyer, not somebody that should.
For a
not
Supreme Court justice.
That's the point. For a Supreme Court justice. These are supposed to be the most brilliant legal minds in our nation of 360 million people. The most brilliant legal minds. That is what we are supposed to be getting. Ketanji Brown Jackson, look, if somebody wants to prove me wrong, I don't think she had the LSAT score if she wasn't a black female applying under the affirmative action regime to get into whatever state law school she was from. I'm just telling you, I don't believe it. I don't think she had the ability. And this was a real thing. The Supreme Court had to take this up. There was a whole regime for decades of, you actually have 2 standard deviations lower scores for the LSAT than your peer group that's going to be in this class, but we're going to let you in because of superficial characteristics and the history of discrimination or whatever. That's reality. That's reality. And this is now, because what's her whole justification for being in the Supreme Court? She went to Harvard Law School. Okay. Where's the ability that we were supposed to see that got her into Harvard Law School? They used to demand that presidential candidates, remember this, under the Bush-Kerry regime, Bush-Kerry administration, rather? Not, that'd be fun if they were president, vice president. It was show us your SAT scores. That was the big hit that the Democrats put on George Bush until they found out that I think who had higher SATs, guys, Bush or Kerry? It was very close. And their grades at Yale, Bush had better grades. So their whole thing was Bush is so dumb. By the way, not even that your grades at Yale necessarily makes you smart or dumb, but your ability as a lawyer, this is why it matters. By the way, also true of doctors. LSAT score, MCAT score corresponds very highly with your actual success and ability at the peak of that profession. It's just the truth. It's just the reality of it.
I have no business being on the Supreme Court. I would be
very humble of you.
Better. I would be an infinitely better Supreme Court justice than Ketanji Brown Jackson. And some of this, Buck, I'm just insulted by. You mentioned Sotomayor. You and I work a lot to be prepped, to read, to be ready to talk to everybody out there in this audience every day. It's a privilege to do this, and I think we have a responsibility to be well informed because many of you are busy and your job is not to know everything under the sun about the news, right? So I work really hard. You work really hard. We read a lot. We're constantly working. I'm insulted as a citizen when there are 9 Supreme Court justices. That job is unbelievably transcendent for a lawyer to be able to have. And they won't do the bare minimum of work, even though they have completely elite staffs, Buck, that are often drafting their opinions, that are putting everything in front of them and saying, just read this.
But they've never had to. This is the point. She's never had to do the work, Clay. She's always been told, you're brilliant, you're the greatest. Same with Sotomayor. You're brilliant, you're the greatest. The whole system has propped up this cohort of people at the most elite levels of their profession. And I want to be very clear. A lot of people get very low SATs and have a lot of different kinds of smarts and creativity and go on to have incredibly productive and brilliant lives. This is not a knock on people that didn't do great on standardized tests or SATs. In law, at the very highest level of understanding the complexities of law, it's like, hey, when I'm telling you you're going to have a brain surgeon, I'm not saying who's going to sell you a car or who's going to start a really elite HVAC business in your town that's going to make him a millionaire. All things you can do with that high. If I tell you, Clay, you're going to have a brain surgeon, but his MCAT score was in the 10th percentile. How do you feel about that?
Not good.
If you tell me that the guy who's fixing my HVAC is great, everybody thinks he does a phenomenal job, but he got like a 900 to only SAT, I'm like, well, he's great at HVAC. I don't care. Yeah. Like, he's a businessman. But there are some things where it actually matters. And the Supreme Court is one where it matters. And there was a whole generation where all the law schools were doing this and everything else. And we saw it play out. Obama was the president of Harvard Law Review, never actually wrote anything for Harvard Law Review. They made him the president of it because, he's Obama. I mean, they gave him a Nobel Peace Prize because he became president. The whole DEI regime, we're going to be dealing with this for a long time, but you have to be able to be honest. By the way, if I'm wrong, if Ketanji Brown Jackson got like a 170 or something on the LSAT, which is super elite, I apologize, and she should let that out there and everybody can know. Okay.
Yeah, but by the way, it still wouldn't change the fact that she's not preparing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the insult to me because, remember when Sotomayor said, I don't even remember what the number was, but they were debating whether you should be mandated to get the COVID shot. And she said something like there were 100,000 kids hospitalized right now with COVID. And you just looked at it and you said, you haven't done the bare minimum of prep.
You're ignorant. Yeah.
And it's a willfulness to not do the work. And so when she's making an analogy like that, this is a supremely important decision, as most are that reach the Supreme Court. It's complicated. A lot of brilliant lawyers have argued other sides to get to the point where we say, hey, we got to have the 9 final arbiters of what the law is. Look at this. And, Ketanji Brown Jackson this same week was the lone dissent in the 8-1 decision over whether you can try to have conversion therapy, so-called, in Colorado. She is just a left-wing blue sky poster who Joe Biden put on the Supreme Court. And for the next 30 years, you can even see the frustration coming from Elena Kagan and even from Sotomayor. Certainly, we talked about Amy Coney Barrett, who is maybe the kindest sounding. I listened to her and I was like, she sounds like somebody who puts you to sleep reading a book with her voice. And she took a 2x4 to her.
I mean, I'll just tell you this. I looked this up. I was curious. The average difference, you can just find this stuff online now, again, because this has all come out. This used to be forbidden to talk about. Like, you couldn't discuss this. If you were at college, everyone would yell at you and shout. This is just facts. This is reality. And it was a policy of racial discrimination that these universities did engage in for decades and still try to engage in, but now they know that it's unconstitutional. They're not allowed to do this. So they can't shout you down because you're saying, hey, you're breaking the law. That doesn't really work anymore. The difference, Clay, for Harvard students between the average black student, the average white student at Harvard on the LSAT, is at least 10 points difference. I mean, 10, and to understand this, that's the difference between being in the 98th percentile or the 70th percentile. It is a huge differential on that test. Enormous.
People
98th percentile versus 70th.
Yeah, the bell curve on this gets really altered in a hurry. I think the numbers were, when I did it, Buck, if you get a 160 or above, you're in the 85th percentile. So if you're talking about a 10 percentile drop, like the
or 10 points on the LSAT.
Yeah, right. But the 160s and the 170s, it's not, people look at that and they hear, oh, she got a 148 or a 150, and they think, okay, well, that doesn't sound that much different. The difference between a 150 and a 160 is like 30 percentile points.
Yes.
I mean, so you're talking about sub 50 percentile for some of these. It's really staggering. And again, if she were doing the work and I was hearing these questions and I thought to myself, okay, she's actually putting in the time, it's just an embarrassment that she's on the court. And frankly, I think it's unconstitutional because by Supreme Court precedents, you can't do what Joe Biden did to put her on the court. You can't say, I'm only going to consider black women for a job anywhere. That would be a flagrant violations of civil rights law nationwide. So why is it allowed for the Supreme Court for Joe Biden to have come out and say, I'm only going to put a black woman on? And again, the team looked it up. That eliminates 97 or 98% of lawyers nationwide. So you're immediately saying, I'm only picking in the 2 to 3% of the population pool. What are the odds that when you say that about anything, you get the best person for any job? If you immediately on its face say, I'm only considering that, not just imagine, take it outside a race. If you said, I'm only considering people for the Supreme Court who are 5 foot or shorter, I think a lot of people would say, well, that doesn't seem like a good idea, right? Or 6'8" or taller, whatever the math is.
On the other side of this, I would just argue, I think Justice Clarence Thomas, a black man, which you will somehow never really hear. You'll never really hear about him in the Democrat media. Justice Clarence Thomas is, I think, arguably one of the giants of the court of all time. I think has a tremendous legal insight, wisdom, and knowledge, and proves, whether you agree with him or not, all the time with what comes down under his name, that he deserves to be there. So, it's just a question of, do you want people that can handle this stuff or not? Justice Thomas can handle the legal reasoning, is a brilliant guy, knows a hell of a lot more about this stuff than me or Clay or a lot of the people out there listening who are actually lawyers. Ketanji Brown Jackson, I think I know more about the law than she does. I'm being honest with you. I think we could sit around and get into this without her staff there. I'd be like, give me a month to study. I think I'd probably beat her.
I said I have no business being on the Supreme Court. I'm licensed in 2 different jurisdictions. I've been a lawyer now, licensed for 22 years. I think I would be infinitely better than her. And I should not ever be infinitely better as a Supreme Court justice than anyone when there's only 9 of them and they're at the absolute apex of the legal profession. By the way, I was right. Sotomayor, during those debates, said over 100,000 kids were currently hospitalized with COVID. I think the number was 120. I mean, that is unacceptable.
And by the way, not from COVID, but they were in the hospital for other things, as we know, and they happen to have a cold alongside it, because that's what it was for kids, a cold. Anyway, if the roof on your house is not the most valuable part of the home, it's right up there, especially with the plumbing and the electrical systems. A roof gets as much of a workout as any part of your house, but not nearly the maintenance attention that stuff on the inside often does. So when a roofing company offers you a free inspection to see what kind of shape it's really in, you want to say yes to that offer. Erie Home is the roofing company right now making that offer that I really want you to consider. Erie Home is a 50-year-old company specializing in making sure the roof on your house is in excellent shape. They'll inspect your roof for any problems free of charge using a 25-point inspection they developed over their many years in business. If your roof needs replacement, Erie Home provides all kinds of options, including the use of newer metal materials that are made to mimic the look of the roof you likely have now. These new metal materials allow your new roof to last up to 2 to 3 times longer than traditional shingle roofs with proper care and maintenance. Your new roof from Erie Home comes with a 50-year transferable warranty, too. Schedule your free inspection at eriehome.com/buck today and save up to $1,200 on the installation price. That's eriehome.com/buck. This discount is maximized at $1,200, valid on new roofing installation only. Minimum purchase required and restrictions apply. See rep or warranty for warranty or promotional details.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Mic drops that never sounded so good. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Time for a sofa upgrade? Introducing Anabay Sofas, where designer style meets budget-friendly prices. Anabay brings you the ultimate in furniture innovation with a modular design that allows you to rearrange your space effortlessly. Perfect for both small and large spaces, Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa inside and out. Say goodbye to stains and messes with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics that make cleaning easy. Liquids simply slide right off. Designed for custom comfort, our high-resilience foam lets you choose between a sink-in feel or a supportive memory foam blend. Plus, our pet-friendly, stain-resistant fabrics ensure your sofa stays beautiful for years. Don't compromise quality for price. Visit washablesofas.com to upgrade your living space today. Sofas start at just $699 with no risk returns and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 60% off plus free shipping and free returns. Shop now at washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
These days, it seems like AI agents are just about everywhere you turn, every field and every function. But without identity, you can't trust they'll serve your business instead of jeopardizing it. Fortunately, Okta helps you get identity right by securing your AI agents' identities, giving you a single layer of control, a single standard of trust. So whether an AI agent supports a single user or your entire enterprise, with Okta, you'll turn risk into opportunity. Secure every agent. Secure any agent. Okta secures AI.
Craving bold, authentic taste without kitchen chaos? True Nature Meats Southern Barbecue Chicken Breast delivers. Juicy, pre-cooked chicken with classic sweet smoky sauce. Full of soul. 30 years supplying the finest restaurants. Chances are you've already had their chicken. Heat in 2 minutes, served with sides or buns. Complaints turn to second helpings. Real meat, real flavor. Go to TrueNatureMeats.com. Code FREEMEAT for 20% off. Plus free New York strip, Texas smoked brisket, and Mediterranean chicken with code FREEMEAT at TrueNatureMeats.com.
Welcome into the second hour of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show, and we've got the confirmation of news that was leading the program, which is there's a shakeup in D.C. Pam Bondi is out as Attorney General. I would reiterate what I said in the first hour. I think Pam Bondi is from everything that I've seen. I actually don't know her. Have we interviewed her here on the show? I don't think we did.
I think she's one of the few we've never had on.
I feel like maybe when she was Florida AG, Clay, I interviewed her years ago, but I can't even remember now. We do a lot of interviews. But she's a good woman. She's a patriot. She loves this country. I think she served honorably. I think that's true. I think she made some mistakes, and Trump decided it's time for a change-up, right? Just because you take one player out of the game and you take somebody off the bench and put them in, it's not that the person that's on the bench is a bad person or a bad player even. It's just not right for that moment. So I think that Pam Bondi should, generally speaking, I know there's some criticisms, but generally speaking, should be thanked for her service, and I know Trump will do so. There's no animus here. This is just a change-up, and everybody should feel like when serving at the pleasure of the president means this, that sometimes we got to change things up, even if you're doing your best. Your best isn't necessarily good enough for the moment, and that's okay as long as somebody else steps in who can get it done. Here, Clay, for example, podcast listener Mike in Omaha. This is from the last hour. Now this is confirmed. I want to get some of these talkbacks and calls on the AG situation. This is Talkback D. Hit it.
I couldn't disagree more with you regarding Pam Bondi, or even it sounds like Tulsi Gabbard as well. Couldn't disagree more. Trump's panicking. Joe Biden, the Biden administration, whoever is running it, didn't remove one cabinet member in 4 years. Trump is giving Democrats skins, scalps that he does not need to do. 2.0 is imploding, guys.
Okay, Mike, podcast listener Mike, first of all, thank you for listening on the podcast. Second of all, I couldn't disagree with you more. I don't think that Trump is giving the Democrats scalps. I think that, if anything, Clay, in this case, it's Trump voters. It's MAGA who feel very annoyed about what happened with Pam Bondi. I don't think there's not some Democrat clamoring that Trump is bending the knee to here. It's a lot of people who listen to this show who were very bothered by the way the whole Epstein files thing was handled. And also, I'll just put it to everyone this way. What's the big win from the DOJ in the last year? What's the big thing? We got big win at the border with Border Patrol. But what's the big win that they've racked up? I mean, you could say, oh, well, law enforcement, that's really more FBI. The law enforcement agents helping out in places like Memphis and D.C. Yeah, there's DOJ, of course, and DOJ is part of FBI. But that's a Kash Patel, first and foremost, and our friend Dan Bongino when he was in that deputy role, Clay. I mean, how do you see this? I don't view this as bending the knee to the left at all. I think this is Trump just saying, we got to be a lean, mean machine. We appreciate her, but we're changing it up.
Yeah, I don't even think this is something that makes Democrats happy at all. I think that's a poor take from the listener there. I think Trump has looked at Kristi Noem and looked at Pam Bondi, and I actually think he has made the decision that if he's going to change anything, then he needs to do it, like we said in the first hour, right now, because you have to get Senate confirmation for the new Attorney General, whomever it is. There are reports that it might be Lee Zeldin. And I look, we try to be as honest as we can. And we said this in the first hour. Pam Bondi's, bringing in those influencers and giving them the Epstein binders and then saying, I have the Epstein files on my desk as we're speaking right now. Maybe we can go grab that clip, that was on Fox News, if I remember correctly, were the biggest unforced errors of the first year and a half of Trump 2.0. That's just the reality. Now, I don't know what's going on behind scenes now that Trump is saying, hey, I'm ready for a new attorney general. But I'm not surprised that she's on her way out. And I don't think this is some sort of scalp that Democrats would be happy with. Democrats, I don't even think have come after Pam Bondi hard, relatively speaking. Pete Hegseth, they've come after him with everything they've had for 2 straight years. That's who that
would be bending the knee. I agree with you. There are people in this administration that if they got shoved out, whether it was true or not, it would look like this was the pressure of Trump opponents being conceded to. I don't see that at all. Honestly, and I don't mean this as a slight to Pam Bondi. I think smart Democrats are like, yeah, keep her there. Keep her there. Because she hasn't been that effective. And again, I have nothing, I think she tried. I think she's a good person. I appreciate her service to the country. I just don't think, if you look at Clay, you're going to put her up with Rubio and Besson, and we got people that are hitting on all cylinders. We do not have time to waste. We do not have learning on the job time here. And I think that Trump sees that and he's making the right move. Again, he's doing it respectfully. There's no bitterness in this. People say it's a firing. It's a replacement.
Here is the, Fox News details. Bondi met with Trump in the Oval Office on Wednesday night ahead of his speech on Iran, where she was reportedly informed of her ousting. Sources said, this is Fox News reporting, the president is reportedly considering replacing Bondi with EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, sources added. Now, first hour, I mentioned two names, maybe Lee Zeldin. Trump already knows exactly where he's going to go. We've had him on the show a lot.
Yep.
Over the years. For those of you maybe not familiar with him, former congressman for New York, ran a great campaign trying to flip New York in the 2022 election cycle, current EPA administrator. Okay. If you were going to go outside, I'll give one in the Senate, Ted Cruz. When you say, okay, Clay, why do you name a senator? It would need to be a red state senator. You would need to trust the governor who would name a replacement. And that would mean that much like Markwayne Mullin, confirmation typically is very easy when someone is in the United States Senate and they are elevated to the Attorney General's office. So if he were looking outside of his administration now, I think Ted Cruz in the Senate, maybe even Mike Lee
senator from Utah, both from red states, would do great jobs. And then the one outside, Buck, we mentioned this earlier. If I were picking a governor, if I were picking somebody from outside the administration, Ron DeSantis would be a dominant attorney general home run pick. Those are my outside candidates.
I would put into the mix on all of that. First of all, I think Ron wants to finish. The problem is people like what they're doing, right? In some case, right? The problem is, Ted likes being a senator, and I think he likes representing the state of Texas. And I think Ron wants to finish out his term as governor, to be a governor for all time. He's one of the all time greats. He's a GOAT governor, as in greatest of all time for the state of Florida, transform this place. And so many Floridians, I put myself in this category, are truly grateful to him and his team and A.G. Uthmeyer and just everyone who has really made Florida in such a short period of time this incredible state, and a place where so many people want to come live. The biggest problem now is everyone wants to live here, so housing prices have skyrocketed because, supply and demand still exists. Clay, here's one though. Harmeet Dillon. I bet she's in the conversation.
Yeah, she's already inside the Department of Justice, so right, that would be. But I'm just saying they're elevating Todd Blanche. But yeah, I don't think that's a crazy idea either.
That would be somebody who from the inside internally, I think would do a very good job. Already knows the ropes, already knows everything. I don't really have a read on Todd Blanche. So I can't, I don't know. Do you have much of a read on Todd? I know he's the interim, but sometimes the interim just sort of stays on. My guess is that's not going to happen, but do we have what's your take on Todd? Do you have one?
I mean, I think he's super smart. Trump likes him. He's been his, personal lawyer in the past. So there have been reports that Bondi and Blanche worked well together. And again, I'm not inside the Department of Justice. Not like I cover, or know either of these very well. I think he probably is not going to elevate the deputy and leave him there. If he did, he would have to get Senate confirmation as well. One thing that I do think is significant, there are reports that she's already flown back to Florida, Pam Bondi, after being removed last night. Also, Buck, this was Susie Wiles's pick for Attorney General. Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff, she said, hey, you can trust former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi to come in and help here. Buck, let me give you a crazy scenario, since we can sometimes, again, reports are it's going to be Lee Zeldin. We'll see whether those end up being accurate. What if Trump elevated Ted Cruz, who's already in the Senate, to Attorney General, and then to solve the controversy that is currently at play in the Senate in Texas, where you have Ken Paxton and John Cornyn throwing haymakers at each other? What if the current governor, Greg Abbott of Texas, put Ken Paxton in the Senate to serve out the remainder of Ted Cruz's term and end the battle over both of those guys competing in the Senate primary right now? I'm just saying sometimes
Ted Cruz is not going to be Attorney General. You know why? Ted Cruz is going to run for president.
He is going to run for president, but he may decide that being Attorney General is a better platform to run for president from than
you think so?
Senate. I mean, look at the data historically. But think about the data historically. There aren't very many senators. Barack Obama obviously was one that end up winning, and Joe Biden, I know, was in the Senate for a long time. But I mean, historically,
that's a couple recent ones.
Well, but I think I'm correct on this. Historically, prior to Biden, the last senator to be elected president was John F. Kennedy Jr. So we went 60 years, and we've had one sitting United States senator elected as president. Biden wasn't obviously a sitting senator when he was elected.
Yeah, Republicans tend to want governors, and Democrats tend to elevate. Now, remember, John Kerry obviously was very close to being president, shockingly close to being president. So that would be somebody else that was up there. Kamala Harris, I know she was VP, but she's really someone from But
isn't that kind of a crazy stat? Since John F. Kennedy in 1960, Barack Obama is the only sitting United States senator to be elected president. I believe I'm correct in that. That's kind of
who was the last Attorney General to be president?
RFK Jr. if he hadn't gotten shot, maybe.
Well, that doesn't count.
RFK Sr.
Whoa.
Yeah. We I think are going to have RFK Jr. still alive, on the show next week, according to producer Allie. He would have been the nominee, right? He was the former attorney general, under his brother.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's, and I don't believe I'm speaking out of school here. I'm just observing this. I think Senator Cruz is great. You know, him and Trump are great. Total simpatico there. I don't think Cruz wants to be inside the broader chicken coop of MAGA right now. I think he's got some.
All of that is a very fair assessment. Cruz is going to run for president, and he's going to run from outside of the administration, and we'll see what ends up happening with J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. But I'm just trying to think through ways that could help preserve the Senate majority and save a lot of money that's otherwise going to be spent. I'm just trying to think through, if you were going to elevate in the United States Senate, you get an easy confirmation if you want somebody who is going to be in the office quickly, just like what happened with Mark Wayne Mullen. And if you have a red state governor, you don't have to worry about losing a Senate seat. Or, for instance, there's nothing we would ever do to Susan Collins. She's never going to be in the cabinet because she would be replaced by a Democrat. So it'll be interesting. And maybe Trump's already made up his mind that Lee Zeldin is the guy. And if he is, then we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, we like Lee. Z.
Yes.
We like, you can call him Z too. He had a good run at the governor's mansion. It didn't work out. I know he got beat, but that helped a lot, you remember, with the House, because there was enough of
That's the reason we won. That's right.
Mm-hmm. There was enough of a Republican momentum in the state of New York that Long Island, where Lee is actually from, was the difference maker. So anyway, we again with Pam Bondi, and send us your thoughts on this, by the way, if you want. Agree, disagree with Pam Bondi, moving on. But I think it's a strong. Also, the caller there, I didn't say anything about Tulsi Gabbard. I guess he's just assuming that that's maybe.
There are some reports out there that Tulsi may be on her way out too. We don't know.
Just to be clear, so I didn't say that. So that wasn't. That's not for me. I just wanted to clarify the record there that Tulsi. I wasn't. Yeah, there's some reports that she may go. I've seen those reports, but yeah. All right. Sorry.
No, I was going to President Trump has put out a statement about Bondi. We will read it for you when we come back.
Very well done. You shop online for a lot of things these days, and sometimes you find something online. You're like, oh my gosh, it is so much easier to do this online. The convenience, the choice, the information you bring to it. And let me tell you a little story. Gary and I, we don't have a yard. We have a whole bunch of outdoor terraces, balconies. I never know the difference. Places outside where you can walk that are elevated. We got like 6 of them or something here. And some of them are big, some of them are small. We put plants on them. You know what happens? It looks like they get lit on fire. We picked some of the wrong plants because we didn't really know what we're doing. Then my friends from Fast Growing Trees came along. Fast Growing Trees delivers trees, shrubs, plants to the front steps of 2 million addresses in America. But here's the really cool thing. They have so much expertise you can draw upon. And I'm talking about you can actually have a chat with them and say, hey, here's where I am in the country. Here's the climate I'm in. What plants make sense? What's easy to grow? What's hard to grow? What's hardy? What's going to look great in my environment? I mean, this is stuff that I just didn't know. We love Fast Growing Trees. Clay's got it going on. I've got it going on. FastGrowingTrees.com is where you want to go. Use my name, Buck, as your promo code. Everything you order is backed by their Alive and Thrive guarantee, and you'll get 20% off your first order when you go to FastGrowingTrees.com. That's FastGrowingTrees.com. Use promo code BUCK. Get the right plants, the right trees, the right shrubbery for where you are at FastGrowingTrees.com.
Stories of freedom. Stories of America. Inspirational stories that unite us all. Each day, spend time with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back into Clay and Buck. We're joined now by retired Brigadier General Shawn Harris. He's a cattle farmer from Northwest Georgia. He is running for Congress out of Georgia's 14th District. General Harris spent 40 years in the United States military. His last position was a senior defense policy senior defense official, rather, for the State Department based in Israel. He is a Democrat-facing Republican candidate, Clay Fuller. Sir, thank you for your service. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Hey, guys, it's great. I'm so happy to be on your show. Look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you about this first? And given that you were a senior defense official for the State Department and you're 40 years in the military, what's your take on how things are going in the Middle East right now?
Yeah, thank you for that question. The reality of it is we kind of got ourselves in a little bit of a situation. Obviously, you remember last night, the President of the United States, I'm glad he did come up on the net and talk to the American people. However, he didn't actually tell the American people how do we actually get into this war. And furthermore, he didn't tell us exactly how we're going to get out of it. And then the last piece is what does it look like the day after? Because as some of you may know, your viewers may know that if you break it, you own it. And I just want to make sure that as we working our way through this, our military is the most powerful military walks the face of the earth. We will win this war with our military. But I am concerned if we don't watch it, we could lose this war politically because the American people don't understand what we're doing and why we're doing it.
If you were in Congress right now and there were a war resolution and the president was asking to be able to fight Iran, he's saying it's not a war and they haven't requested this. But would you have supported the president's strikes in Iran if, based on your background, 40 years in the military, former brigadier general, would you have said, yes, we should take the Ayatollah out if you had been asked?
Yeah, the reality of it is when we move to the top secret side, and I know, if I'm not mistaken, Buck was CIA, so he understands exactly what I'm talking about here, is when we go to the top secret level, I fully expect the president and his staff to come in and brief Congress. I also expect Congress to do their job. And based on that information, if it was a fact that they actually had the potential to have nuclear weapons again, then yes. But if it wasn't clear, because we're getting conflicting information at this point, and as you see, Pam Bondi has just been fired from her job, but we're getting conflicting information. So based on the information, I would have either voted yes, or based on the lack of information, I would have told the president, you need to come in here and tell the American people exactly why we're getting into this, because many of us did 20 plus years in a forever war, and we don't need to do that again.
General, so far, everything you're saying sounds entirely reasonable and well thought out. I just have this question. You're a Democrat. What's going on?
Yes.
Why are you a Democrat? Now you got to tell us this, because we don't have too many Democrats who join.
I would tell you, the reality of it is I would not be on your show talking to you today if my military fellow veterans wouldn't have came over to my farm when we first got home from Israel. I'm putting up a fence and they say, hey, sir, you still got too much fire in your belly. We looked at your bio. You got it, whatever that it is. We want you to run against Marjorie Taylor Greene in the primary. And when they said the word primary, I had to say to them, hey, guys, I need to have a conversation. When they say what? I said, guys, in the military, we don't talk about being a Democrat, independent, or Republican. But I got to tell you the truth if we're going to go down a road and a path like this. I am a moderate Democrat. And they took about a minute and said, okay, we still want to support you. So it was the Republicans here in Northwest Georgia who actually recruited me. It's Republicans in Northwest Georgia still supporting me. However, I am a Democrat, but I am not tied to a party. And that what makes me different, because leadership matters. And when I get to D.C., I'm going to stand up strictly for the people here in Northwest Georgia only, period. And that's when I get there. That's why the Republicans want to know how I'm going to vote, and the Democrats want to know how I'm going to vote.
Now, a big part, obviously, given how close the House is, a very slim difference between who the speaker is, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. If you were elected as a Democrat, though, I presume you would be voting for Hakeem Jeffries as speaker.
I can't just sit here on your show and tell you that, because the reality of it is, if the Democrats take over the House, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of people who's going to be fighting for that position. At the end of the day, my focus will be on whoever that is. How is that person going to be looking at the rural community? Because I believe that right now the rural community is being left out and being left behind. So I'm going to be voting for whoever is going to say, Shawn, we will make sure that every time we have a discussion, we're looking through a lens of the rural community. And, oh, by the way, Shawn, we're going to get the farm bill done so we can take care of the people in the rural community, those farmers that are out there, instead of just talking about it. So that's where I'm at. I don't know Akeem Jeffries. I don't know him personally. However, I have briefed him in my other capacity as Brigadier General Harris as a senior defense official in Israel. So pretty much every leader or every representative in Congress right now, I have personally briefed when they came over to Israel. So they already know me. They know I'm a straight shooter, and they know I can stand on my own 2 feet and fight for the people here in the United States, but specifically here in Northwest Georgia now.
We're talking to former Brigadier General Shawn Harris. He's running in Northwest Georgia for the congressional seat being vacated by Marjorie Taylor Greene as a Democrat against Clay Fuller, a Republican. There's a big governor's race going on in Georgia. There's a big Senate race going on in Georgia. You say you're a moderate Democrat. What do you think? I'm just kind of curious about men competing in women's sports. This happened in Atlanta. You got Leah Thomas, who was a man identifying as a woman, won an NCAA title. Would you support that, or do you think only men should be in men's sports and women in women's sports? Because most Democrats publicly right now say if you're a man who identifies as a woman, you should be able to compete in women's sports.
Yeah, I tell you, I like these type questions because these are the type questions that try to take me in a particular path. And that's why I say I'm a moderate Democrat. Where I stand is this. I know the difference between a man and a woman. And I want men to play on men's sports, women to play in women's sports. And I want sports to be fair, and I want sports to be fun. So that's where I'm at. And here in Northwest Georgia, you spoke about Atlanta, but here in Northwest Georgia, we just trying to make ends meet. We are trying to make sure that we can feed our families and bring jobs here. And that's why I continue to talk about kitchen table issues. I don't dodge any questions at all. But the reality of it is the people here in Northwest Georgia, Democrats, Independents, and yes, Republicans are saying, Shawn, we want you to stay focused 100% on us. And the issue that you're talking about is not an issue here in Northwest Georgia because our girls play on girl teams, our boys play on boys teams, and that's what makes me different as a moderate Republican. I'm going to make sure I stay laser focused on what is happening here in rural America because I live in Rockmart, Georgia, small town America. That's where I was born and raised in Blakely, Georgia, Southwest Georgia, and that's what I'm all about.
General, can I ask you, there are some issues that no matter where you are in the country, clearly the federal policy and legislation affects you, right? And that's why we have a federal government, we have state, we have local. So, for example, the border and illegal immigration, I don't care if somebody's in New York City or they're in rural Georgia or they're in, Montana, anywhere in the country. Illegal immigration is something that affects people because of the representation in Congress that it affects, because of the costs, because of all those things that we know. Do you agree with the securing of the border under the Trump administration? And would you vote alongside Republicans who are trying to, for example, fund ICE and continue deportations, or would you vote with Democrats against that?
Yeah, let me break your question down into two parts. Because I love complex questions, but as a retired general, I need to make sure I stay laser focused on your answer. The first part of your question talked about the southern border. I agree 100%. President Trump got it spot on. He got it right because President Biden and Vice President Harris, they lost the ball and they were letting all kind of people in. So when it comes to the southern border, I want to be clear. The southern border needs to stay closed and President Trump does it right. And I'm going to support him on that. Now, when it comes to immigration, the president said that he was going to actually go at the worst of the worst, murderers, rapists, whatever else. I'm 100% behind him on that. However, the difference is because I've served in our military and I actually have served with ICE. ICE role is to be doing things down by the border, and ICE should be picking up the worst of the worst from our jails throughout the country. They should not be on the street being like a regular cop. Because if you kill somebody Americans, then we definitely have to look at it. So the reality of it is, on the second part of the answer is this. I want to make sure that ICE is functional, but I want to make sure that they follow the rules of their own organization as regular police officers and go back into their mission. The president of the United States, as you know, something was going on because he fired whoever was in charge of HSS. And in addition to that, I think the new person that just got it the other day, forgive me, I can't remember his name as we're speaking. I think you have already started to see he's starting to make some changes, and I believe those changes are going to be for the better. So that is how I would answer that question, because I am different, and I don't like when people try to put me in a box, because Shawn Harris can never be put in a box, because I'm focused right here on the people here in Northwest Georgia, and I want to make sure that I'm supporting them. And what they have said to me, Shawn, make sure that southern border stays closed. We're going to do that. Shawn, we want to make sure that ICE is doing their job the right way, and we're going to do that.
Shawn, you sound like a good man. You also sound like a Republican. So I'm just sitting here. I don't know what to tell you.
I tell you, maybe that's the reason why they came and recruited me, and maybe that's the reason why Republicans in this district are saying, you know what, Shawn, we're going to give you a chance. And if you don't do your job between now and November, we're going to fire you. And you know what I said to them? Perfect. Because as a leader, I love for people to hold me accountable. And that's why more than 7,000 people in this district got my direct phone number, and they can call me and ask me a question just like you do. And I don't dodge them, not one day. I look forward to going to D.C., doing the hard work, bringing back generational jobs here. And when I say generational jobs, if you'll just let me say this, I thought last night was outstanding, because we proved last night that as Americans, when we work together, we can launch, go around the moon, come back, land, and then guess what we're going to do? We're going to go to the moon. Then we're going to put people on the moon. We're going to put a nuclear reactor on the moon. And after we do all that in a few years, we're going to go to a place called Mars. And when I get to D.C., I'm going to make sure that we bring generational jobs right back here to Northwest Georgia, like Huntsville's nowhere from us. And those jobs will be the jobs that our people work in for the rest of their lives and their kids' life and their grandchildren's life, to make sure that we are part of the mission of putting somebody on Mars. And that is the difference between me and my opponent.
Last question for you. Brigadier General Shawn Harris with us, running as the Democrat in Northwest Georgia in a special election to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then the election will happen again in November. In 2024, did you vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
I'm not going to lie to you. I voted for Kamala Harris. However, at the end of the day, I said even in that election against Marjorie Taylor Greene, when I get to the D.C., if Trump is doing something right, I'm gonna say yes and support him. But what I will also say is this: Marjorie Taylor Greene 2.0, the new Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you listen to her statements, now she talks about health care. Now she talks about insurance. Now she talks about we need to help our farmers. Now she talks about being in a war of choice. And now she talks about we need to release the Epstein files. Marjorie Taylor Greene positions have moved closer to Shawn Harris as the moderate versus Shawn Harris moving toward Marjorie Taylor Greene. So what we actually say here in the district is Democrats, independents, and Republicans are all saying this Shawn Harris is different. He's a leader. He can stand on his own 2 feet. I don't need any major endorsements from major people. I don't need to take money from other organizations. We are not selling our soul to anybody, any organization, so that we can go to D.C. and actually represent the hardworking people in this district, because the hardworking people in this district deserve somebody that's finally going to listen to them, and that person is me.
Thank you for the time, sir. Brigadier General Shawn Harris, running in Northwest Georgia in the special election. Appreciate the time, and thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks, guys. Look forward to coming back.
That is Shawn Harris. Got to tell you, Cozy Earth makes some of the world's softest products: sheets, bedding, throw blankets, clothing. We've introduced you and so many others to Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets, the softest sheets you'll likely ever sleep on. We put them in each bedroom in our home, and they come with a 100-night sleep trial, a 10-year warranty, so you can try them completely risk-free.
Cozy Earth also has a full line of clothing for guys and gals. Everything they make is super comfortable to wear, and it holds form and style wash after wash. If you're thinking about a Mother's Day gift, not too long till Mother's Day now, next month, you can't go wrong with Cozy Earth, whether it's their joggers and casual wear or a comfy robe and PJs. Cozy Earth has it all. Go to CozyEarth.com. My name, Clay, C-L-A-Y, for 20% off. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code Clay for 20% off. And if you see the post-purchase survey, mention you heard about Cozy Earth here. CozyEarth, CozyEarth.com, code CLAY.
You ain't imagining it. The world has gone insane. Reclaim your sanity with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, starting at just $699. Plus, Anabay sofas are pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and feature changeable slip covers and modular pieces. Get up to 60% off site-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Visit washablesofas.com to get yours now. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
These days, it seems like AI agents are just about everywhere you turn, every field and every function. But without identity, you can't trust they'll serve your business instead of jeopardizing it. Fortunately, Okta helps you get identity right by securing your AI agents' identities, giving you a single layer of control, a single standard of trust. So whether an AI agent supports a single user or your entire enterprise, with Okta, you'll turn risk into opportunity. Secure every agent. Secure any agent. Okta secures AI.
Life's nonstop. Work, family, workouts. True Nature Meats New York strip steak. Richly seasoned, pre-cooked perfection that melts in your mouth. 30 years supplying the finest steakhouses. Heat in 4 minutes. No stress. Just nourishing joy. Head to TrueNatureMeats.com. Code FREEMEAT for 20% off. Plus free New York strip, Texas smoked brisket, and Mediterranean chicken with code FREEMEAT at TrueNatureMeats.com.
Third hour, Thursday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show. We are rolling through with a ton of different breaking news stories. We've been talking about the firing that just happened while we were live on the air at the top of the second hour of Pam Bondi as Attorney General. President Trump says she is going to move into the private sector. We have been talking about the situation in Iran, the launch of Artemis 2, and the address that President Trump had last night. We are now joined by Katie Zachariah. She is a lawyer. She has got a lot of different opinions on a variety of topics. But Katie, thanks for joining us right off the top. Pam Bondi is out. You're a lawyer. I floated several names: Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, both Senators Mike Lee and Ted Cruz. There are reports that Lee Zeldin might be the choice. If you sort of had a magic wand and you were able to put names into the mix for Attorney General, based on your legal background, anybody that stands out to you that you think would do a good job as Attorney General?
Well, you had a great list there, and Governor DeSantis has done an excellent job in Florida, and I'd love to juxtapose that with our disaster out here in California. But When I look at Attorney General, I like Todd Blanche a lot. That man stood behind President Trump during the off years. He risked his career to defend him in court. He is savage and he is cutthroat, and I absolutely like him. So if he does a great job as acting AG, I think that they should put him permanently in that position, and he should be there to support the president. I think he is a great pick.
Okay.
Hey, Katie, it's Buck. There's some stories out there, not confirmed yet, but that have to do with the departure of Pam Bondi and something along the lines of an investigation that was going on into Swalwell, who, as we all know, is, unless I'm missing something, supposed to be the next governor of California, according to the Democrats, right? Is there any way in your mind, as a Californian and a lawyer, is there any way in your mind that Swalwell might get pushed aside by the Democrats based on, I'm not saying a Republican's going to win in California, but if something really, really tough comes out, let's just say, in this investigation into Swalwell, his ties to the Chinese spy, this is the stuff that's out there. Is it easy for them, you think, to move somebody else into the slot, or is Swalwell the Democrats' guy in California come what may?
Great question, but who are they going to put in? Katie Porter, right? Like, I think they're banking on Swalwell because they don't have anyone else. And if he turns out to have this, he has this situation with, where does he live? Is he in California, or was it DC or Maryland or Virginia? He had another residence. And so he has a lot of factors against him. What he doesn't have against him is he has good hair, which, the current governor has great hair, and that's what he's going to run for president on. And that's about it. And I think he has right now the support of the Democrat Party, but they're going to have to do a hard line with him. And as soon as this stuff starts trickling out, he has a long history of this. This is not new about Swalwell. He's just kind of flown under the radar for a long time. And reports are indicating that he may or may not have been friends with Pam Bondi. I don't know the veracity of that. But if he now doesn't have a friend as AG, maybe we're going to see a little bit more about Eric Swalwell coming out, in my opinion.
Isn't it crazy, Katie, that he could be having, allegedly, a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy, I believe Fang, and that he could now, sometimes people get elected and I might not agree with them, but I can sit back and say, okay, you know what? I can see how the idea that Eric Swalwell could be in charge of California, as bad as Gavin Newsom has been, I think Swalwell would be orders of magnitude worse. And again, he allegedly slept with a Chinese spy. I just can't believe that he's electable anywhere.
Correct. We need to start going after him on all of those things. He hasn't done anything for California. It's all really been him promoting himself. And that's what we've seen with most of these government officials out of California, and really in a lot of places. But he should not be a serious contender. But this is a problem that the Democrat Party faces on a presidential. They don't have good candidates right now. And so they're pulling from Gavin Newsom, and our state is now, we're bankrupt. Everyone's fleeing Los Angeles in droves. Hollywood can't make a film here. Industry's crashing. President Trump has to have an emergency order to drill oil from our, an entire state over a gold bed of oil, and they're not doing anything about it. So, look, the Democrat Party is in free fall. And I think that this is going to come back to haunt Swalwell, and we're going to be left with a Katie Porter, which means we're probably going to have a Republican governor.
It's amazing. We're speaking to Katie Zachariah. It's amazing that you mentioned Hollywood in there. Now it's fine. For a while, I think the talking points from the Democrats have been, we're the global media power, or, global entertainment powerhouse, and it's all Hollywood's doing great, and look at this and look at that. And now finally the numbers have come out for people that work in this arena. I'm not talking about Netflix executives who can just write checks to have the show made in Budapest or Vancouver, which is that's actually happening a lot, because it's so much cheaper. For anyone who lives in Los Angeles County, which has been for 100 years with Hollywood, the epicenter of the global film and entertainment industry, it's turning into a ghost town for that industry, right? The jobs are down, like 60, 70%? I mean, it's in free fall. Do people realize that this is because of policy? Because of what has been done by the by the governing bodies of California?
Well, I hope so, because if you look at this trajectory, this has really been Gavin Newsom inherited a little bit of this, but the free fall has really been happening since then. And it goes into the wider story of Hollywood. They're not making movies that Americans want to see anymore. And so they're selling woke, and people are now finding alternative forms of entertainment and looking towards alternative studios like Angel Studios to find family-friendly, non-woke material that they can watch with their entire family. So listen, what's happening in Hollywood with the taxes, people can't afford it. So you have an actor or an aspiring actor who comes out here and wants to work in Hollywood. They can't even afford a one-bedroom apartment in the middle of West Hollywood or really in any of the surrounding regions. So it's a whole problem of affordability, taxes, material that they can't use, and the decline of Hollywood in general. And so they're going to places like Georgia. I myself went to go to have a film filmed in Ireland because it was a quarter of the cost to do it in Ireland. This was a young George Washington film that's going to be coming out, but they had to film this whole thing in Ireland because the tax incentives are so terrible in the United States. So Los Angeles is just, they never get it right now. And there's a mass exodus because you cannot afford to live here and be an aspiring actor or really an aspiring entrepreneur. Fuck.
Katie, did I just hear that you have a role in young George Washington?
My husband is an executive producer on the film. So yes, we got to go to Ireland and travel for that film, which was an exciting time.
Well, that's super cool. And I do think this is important, and I've said it quite a lot. I've spent a lot of time in LA. I have a lot of great friends in LA. Probably the second city that I've spent the second most time in almost in my life. And I've done a lot of television. And Katie, I'm sure you've seen this too. And I've talked about it on the program before, but sometimes people hear, oh, well, there's a lot less jobs for Hollywood. Good. I hope they wear it. Actually, a lot of the people losing those jobs are Republicans. A lot of the people who build the sets, a lot of the people who walk around and carry the cameras, a lot of the people who do the physical labor that is required to make movie and television shows and commercials actually vote red. So they don't even share the politics of the people that are costing them their jobs. And I do think that's worth keeping in mind. Remember, there are, in 2020, there were more Republican votes for Donald Trump in California than in Texas in 2020. Now, that's a function of population, but Katie, there are a lot of people who agree with you, me, and Buck that live all over California.
Well, that's the case, and we feel like the underrepresented majority here because you have a lot of frustration. But again, California shows exactly why sanctuary states should not happen, exactly why we should have the SAVE Act, and exactly why we should be able to regulate who's voting in our elections. Because if everything gets cleaned up and you have proof of citizenship and you have people that are supposed to be only voting in California, this state would not be blue. It would not be even deep blue. I think we would be purple to red based on what you just said. Most Californians do not agree with the current governance. Most Californians do like President Trump and his policies and want more of President Trump's policies, but have been completely stomped on by the Democrat Party in California. And if you look at the fraud, on top of that, we're paying a high price to continue with these sanctuary policies and sanctuary politicians.
Katie Zachariah, former spokesman at DHS, spokesperson, and lawyer out in California. Appreciate you being with us. We'll talk to you again soon. You're going to have to be our chief analyst of all things Swalwell for governor out there. That's going to be interesting.
Count on me, Buck. I'd love to do it.
Thank you so much. Great to see you. Legacy Box is the company that families rely on to digitally transfer their home movies from old video cassettes to digital files they can watch again. So if you've got old VHS tapes or maybe those Betacam cassettes and you have no way to watch them again, well, let's get them transferred so you can actually enjoy them. You can get them in the cloud or you can get them transferred to one of those little things you stick into a computer. What are those things called again? I forget, but you know what they are. No one does this better than Legacy Box. A thumb drive. That's right, a thumb drive. And certainly no one's better than Legacy Box when you look at the price. $9 per tape. That's 65% off their regular prices. Digitizing those tapes means moving the contents to the cloud, which means you'll be able to see them on your phone, smart TV, laptop, or iPad. Easy to watch and share those restored family memories again. Whole process takes about a month, so if you want to do something for the moms in your life, this is an excellent Mother's Day gift. To get started, go online to legacybox.com/buck. Take advantage of their $9 a tape sale. That's 65% off their regular prices plus 90 days of free Legacy Box cloud access. Go to legacybox.com/buck. Shop their $9 per tape sale. legacybox.com/BUCK.
News and politics, but also a little comic relief. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
These days, it seems like AI agents are just about everywhere you turn, every field and every function. But without identity, you can't trust they'll serve your business instead of jeopardizing it. Fortunately, Okta helps you get identity right by securing your AI agents' identities, giving you a single layer of control, a single standard of trust. So whether an AI agent supports a single user or your entire enterprise, with Okta, you'll turn risk into opportunity. Secure every agent. Secure any agent. Okta secures AI.
I need to be healthy every day to survive it and go through the next chemo round and the next chemo round. So it's important that work was part of that, to keep my mind busy for 8-9 hours. And then I had to go back and face the reality. I had a goal, and the goal is to survive.
Research shows there is a significant connection between the ability to continue to work and cancer recovery. We can make work a better place for healing.
Learn more and sign the pledge at workingwithcancerpledge.com.